Welcome to True House Stories. I am Lenny Fontana, coming out of New York City with my man today. Special Saturday afternoon, evening, special morning, Sunday morning in some places of the world, broadcast of a True House Stories with the three techno wizard he used to rock 3 decks. Dude, let me tell you, flawlessly. I watched this guy rock 3 decks flawlessly. Even Vegas said the same thing. Louis Vega said, we were like all of us back in the day going 3 turntables and not skip a beat, not a needle come off the turntable. I mean, it was absolutely craziness. And the energy he had, he could give you 20,000 hours of energy and nonstop until the point where he went, oh my God, he's finished. So we like to, he's finished. But we like to welcome to the show, thankfully from Australia, I'm going to bring him up, Mr. Carl Cox. Even though we had technical difficulties, thank you for making the show. Congratulations on the new single. I was told that you got the new single out, Sand, Moon, and Stars. It's a big thing. We're going to get into that in a moment. I want to make sure I say that to you as well. Okay. First of all, how are you doing? Before I even ask the first question, how are you doing with everything going on, lockdown stuff?
Well, can you imagine? I was in America at this particular time, that I was doing in America, and I was in Houston, Texas, where I was playing, and it was halfway through my American tour. I was going to come and visit you guys in New York. I was going to be coming there as well. It was crazy because as we were going along into our tour, the whole pandemic and the virus was becoming apparent, especially on American network TVs. So every time we went to a different hotel when I was going through my tour, I would see, President Trump and everyone at the time. He was, talking about it not being, such a big thing. It's just a flu. It'll go away. And I'm like, okay, fair enough. We've had these things before. SARS. We've had bird flu. We've had mad cow disease. We've had so many of these things come through. But this one, the coronavirus, seemed to be taking hold quite heavily. And at that particular time, I was sitting in the hotel room, and my tour manager, Ian Hussey, and my friend who was touring with me at the time, he's like, listen, man, this ain't looking good for our next events, because at that particular time, I was supposed to be playing the Ultra Music Festival in Miami.
That's right, Miami, right. WMC. And I was going,
the year's going to get towards that. You see, as a crescendo of me playing in America, and that got cancelled. So I was going to play at Space. So we don't do the big event. It was a nice club event. It's going to do a Space, going to do a Rock My Mobile Disco party, which I do every Sunday at the music conference at the Edition Hotel downstairs. And it was like, that got cancelled. I'm thinking, wow. And then, the former president, he got onto the TV. I never watched the TV, and I never watched him. But he came on there, and I'm like, what's he saying? Borders closed? No one can get into America?
You're right. You're like, what? In, out, in? Yeah.
I'm like, God damn, right. Get on the phone. So to get a flight, So we played that night in Houston at Stereo Live. Amazing night. I was only supposed to do like 2 hours. I did 7. I said, we're not leaving until we get kicked out, 7-hour set. I just kept going. And the thing is, when the people were there, they kind of saw me. They had the 2 or 3 hours, and everyone's like having a good time. Woo, yeah, go see. And then the management and the promoters are like, listen, this could be your last event for like a while. I was like, you're right. So just kept going. Hour 4, hour 5, hour 6. Now we got like, I don't know, we had about 3,000 people in the club. Now we've got like a core, which I love all the ways. A core of about maybe 200 or 300 people just on the dance floor. It felt like my own little party in my front room, and just rocked the hell out of them, just went deep right into my box of music and just gave it to them. And then we came out in the morning, got our clothes, got to wash and brush up in the shower, got our clothes, got on a flight directly to Australia, to Melbourne. And then when we got on the plane, they said, listen, when you get back to Melbourne, we got to go and self-quarantine for 2 weeks. Okay, good. Quarantine for 2 weeks. So that's where I've been in Melbourne, Australia. We haven't been able to leave. So while all that was happening, I got locked down, but statewide here in Australia for 5 months. So we had that whole regime going on here, and while it was going along, we had 2 spikes of COVID cases, and the second spike was worse than the first one. So we had to seriously keep locked down until the cases came down, and then when the cases came down, and then we were able to start opening up things here in Australia. But meanwhile, I've been in the kitchen cooking food, banana bread. I've been making soups. I've been doing pasta dishes and all sorts of comfort food, all sorts of stuff, putting them online, getting people really interested in my other aspect of what I know I can do. And also, I've got this vegetable patch garden in my garden here in my house. And I've never grown anything in my life. And normally I'll put some seeds in and they always die. So, because I'm here when I was born.
Well, that's the difference. You can watch everything, you can water it because normally you're not around. Yep.
Potatoes, I was doing chilies, broad beans, tomatoes, and I'm just like, my God, I'm growing all this stuff. So I put that online, showing people my broad beans. I could put the next record out, right, on Facebook, and then people go, yeah, that's cool, it's about, maybe 100 likes, and, people might, share it like 3 times. I put like a plummet of like broad beans for my garden. It's like 500,000 people like, yes. It's like 25,000 shares, comments like out the window. I'm like, this is unbelievable. just me growing something. I think more than anything else.
That's true. Social media. That's the difference of social media, because we think they want our music and talk about our music, and they just want us to tell us what we do for real time of our life. And this is the moments where. That's why this is why I made this show. This is the reason, because you won't have no way to explain that to anybody.
No.
Unless you say on True House Stories. I love this. This is obviously going perfect. This is exactly why we did this show. Leaving Louis Vega said the same thing about his family. He says, I never speak about it, but this moment of darkness brought me and my family closer. We've been forced to deal with things now. So I get it.
And that's the great thing about kind of like finding more out about yourself. We are in pandemic times, so what do you do about that? So, us being in a pandemic times is, keeping connected, big time. I haven't been able to see my family, my family back in the UK since this very day from last year. Within me being here, unfortunately, my father had passed away in January of last year through dementia. Wasn't through COVID, but I knew he was dying and he was on his way. But the thing was about it was I couldn't leave here to go and see him and to make the service and everything. So I actually watch it here in my front room on YouTube as a live stream, watching my father have be put into the cremation and everything. I was just like, how is this possible that I'm not able to even leave the front room?
You fly everywhere. Think about it. We've flown everywhere in the world. You've been from every piece of this. I don't even know where. Let's say, have you done Antarctica? That's probably the only spot you didn't touch, right? So think about it, right? That's probably so. You're used to being able to jump on a flight, be wherever you have to be within a day. If it's America, wherever, Asia in 7 hours, UK in another day as well, whatever it takes. And here you are, the first time where they said to you, you're not in control of anything and you can't do anything because now, like in the movie Bronx Tale, where the guy closes the door and says, now you can't leave. And that's really as scary as it was, and it's horrible. My heart goes out to you for that. That's the realness.
Yeah, it was tough. It was a very tough time for me, and I don't actually have a significant other at the moment here with me also. And the thing is about, I'm so used to having people around me or going to visit people around me. I don't mind my own time being on my own. I've got no problem with that also. But this has really been a self-discovery about oneself, your inner strength to help and support others as well within these times. So my reaction to all of this, in the end of the day, was cabin fever. And the vinyl sessions. And the thing is about me being here in my house, all my vinyl was here, over 150,000 pieces of them.
I know, dude. You rocked us with that, bro. You've been doing it well. Good on you.
And that was my thing. I said, what can I do to help others, through music? And yes, I could have, just put my CD players up, got my laptop out and got into the history of my music, or just played all the latest sounds. And I said, no. What got me here was this 7-inch record, this track by Booker T and the MGs, Green Onions. I'm playing it. And people were like, doesn't he play techno? Doesn't he play house music? What is this music? Oh,
well, that's what I always knew about you. I knew you were a soul boy. I knew that. I knew people that know us know the deal with some of us that know where our roots are. And I was always saying that, and that would be one of my questions down later on as we speak, how you made it from being the soul boy to the techno world. But we'll let you tell that in a moment. But good on you. And I was always wondering what drove you to start playing the vinyl, and now you clarified that.
Well, even more so, Lenny. It was in the last, I would say, last 20 years. I stopped playing vinyl, and I didn't stop playing vinyl because I didn't like playing vinyl. I stopped playing vinyl was because I couldn't get the music I would like to play from an upfront point of view anymore, because nobody was making any more vinyl from that point of view anymore. Everyone was going into the digital nation. They were downloading. They were, putting it in just files. You were getting the music faster than you can shake a stick at. You was putting them on the CDs, and you could play that CD directly, where instead of going through the process of vinyl. So that was my only reason. Because don't forget, I had my own record labels. One of them being Intact Records, and I was putting out, a record nearly every 2 weeks, nearly every month. But nobody was buying vinyl anymore. Vinyl sales are going down and down, but the expenditure was the same. So that didn't make any sense from a business point of view. So even from my own point of view, my own self, is a reason why Intact went into Intact Digital, just to still keep the output of the music, because that's the way life was going for all of us in the end of the day. So for 20 years, so when I started playing at Space in Ibiza in 2001, I was basically playing vinyl up until about 2004, and that's it. So anyone that went to Space after that have never seen me play on vinyl. It's just
and that's a magical thing with you, bro. I've seen you rock 31200s like nobody's business, dude.
Exactly. So you want to.
So I'm laughing because even Louis' interview, we did the same thing. Louis talked about the first time he went to England, and he meets up with you and he talks about you working 3 turntables. And I said the same thing. That's why I drove to get you on this show, because we come from the same time as you do, and how important that heritage is. And I wanted you to explain that to people, because you have a young audience that follows you. Never seen you. If they did, it must be they've been watching your TV shows, but they've never seen you lift needles and drop needles and, and spin the record back and slip cue and boom on a fly. But we'll get to that. So I have to ask you the first question, because you're talking about your roots, and this is perfect timing. And I ask it the same way, and I say, Carl, how does music find the young Carl, the kid? Or how did you find the music? Which way did it work? Did it find you? You found it.
Okay, so my father always loved music. He's always played music in the house. I couldn't get away from it. Unfortunately now, God rest his soul, and my mother, God rest her soul, they just love music. They love sharing music. They love the idea of bringing people together with music. They're from the Caribbean islands of Barbados. And on that island, they have a thing called crop over. Crop over was all about farming the sugarcane, and then baling it up and everything and selling it off to the European countries that bought it in droves. Tate and Lyle, any sugar company, blah, blah, blah. And we all know about sugar. It's bad and good and bad.
I love it, though, but it's horrible.
Cane, whatever. But it came from Barbados. And don't forget, Barbados, the island is this big, tiny. But they would, celebrate the fact that the island's got some money coming in, and then they'd all dress up and have a carnival, right? So it's called crop over. But because my family were in the UK, they never had that vibe anymore. So they used to bring like any West Indian families around at that particular time in the late 60s and the 70s, because I was born 1962. So you can all work it out how old I am. But at the end of the day,
165 years old.
Right, Lenny, you hit the nail on the head. How did you guess? They're always music in the house, whether it would be calypso music, whether it be soca, which is like the West Indian kind of jump up music that they have, whether it be reggae, whether it be soul, whether it be country and Western. I grew up with this style of music, and my father used to go and buy all this music on 7-inch. And he had a lot of collection of soca and calypso music from the West Indies. So, and my house was always pumping. So whether I was wanting to be a football player, or whether I was going to be a ski jumper or race car driver, the music was always there in my ears, ding, 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 ding. And I'm just like, I didn't want to fight it, because it actually made me feel good hearing James Brown get up off of that thing, you know? I'm just like, wow, you know, my mum and dad's family and friend are downstairs, and then I get up off of that thing, and I'll be upstairs in my bedroom thinking, can you just, I want to get some sleep.
Would you ever think a kid would say that in his mind? Like, you know, most of us were like, parents would like, shut it down. Meanwhile, you're saying, no, music is right? Crazy. It's crazy.
That's my household, you know, and it always has been. And that was always the vibe about who we are, and what makes myself and my two sisters, Andrea Cox and Pamela Cox, we always just love music. I just took it a step further, based on that one day when I was 8 years old. I was down the banisters and from my bedroom, mum and dad having a party on the weekend, and my father looked up on the banister and he said, "Son," he said, "you can either go to bed or you come downstairs and put these records on and don't move until I tell you." So I went downstairs, smoke-filled room, you know, with people all over the place dancing their ass off to these records. We had a turntable, a single turntable, which you load the records up, 7-inch records, and he used to have a phono and tape and an auxiliary. That's all you had. And I took it a step further, because my father used to have like a cassette player. So I used to record all the records on the cassette and write them down what they were, and then make it non-stop, because the records used to, you know, land, another record, land, another record, land, another record, used to run out, reload them. But while I was reloading them, I would switch the tape and play the music from the tape. I was mixing music when I was 8 or 9 years old, and that's how I did it. And then my father was like, "Right, son, we're going to go around to someone else's house and do the same. We're going to go around to someone else's house and do the same." And that was my penance for staying up with my family with the music. And I just thought, this is fantastic. Can I make any money from it? No. Can I make a career from it? No. Is this something that I'm going to pursue in my lifetime? No. It was always no, because it was a hobby. It was something that I enjoyed. I used to listen to the radio and listen to like pirate radios or radios that was that forbidden to listen to at that time of night. But that's where you hear the music. And Radio Luxembourg or Radio Jackie, all these kind of pirate radios. The signal will go out. And then, can I hear the record, the OJs? Something, they come back again. And then the guy go, "Yeah, that's the OJs. I love music." I'll be like, "Yes," and write it down. And then I used to go to the record store with my dad and go, "Dad, these tunes, these records," you know. I didn't have any money, he did. But I knew what I liked. So this is why.
Here, Dad. Here, Dad. Here, Dad.
I owe a lot to my father with this, because he never thought I would become anything in the end of the day based on my pursuit of being a DJ. But he could see that there was some sort of affinity that I have with connecting with people, even from a very early age. And I've never lost that. And that's why when it came to Cabin Fever, I just went right back to the roots of getting me where I am today, of how I love finding that record and playing it to you, whether it's 1 or 1 million or 500 or 20, it really doesn't matter. The fact that I'm giving that to you as a gift is my gift to you, always, you know. And whether I made them 2 million or whether I made 20 pence or a pound, the idea of me giving you a record is the very same that I've ever done. Even to this very day with Cabin Fever, it's a gift, you know, and that's why I never set a precedent for Cabin Fever, because that's my life history of music. It's right there for you to understand. One of the reasons why I'm still here after nearly 40 years of playing music, and I'm still this happy about it, even though my career has fallen off a cliff based on the pandemic. So I'm still as positive as I possibly can be.
Well, you got a great smile, brother. You still got that smile, as I always see. No matter how much all of us felt that feeling of, now what? We're in the now what abyss moments. Like, what do we do now? Okay. Any musical training besides being a record selector in the beginning? Did you take piano lessons or anything like that at the start of your career in your life in music?
Very, very good question. And yes. Again, my mum, she thought, okay, well, you being a record selector is fantastic. I hope you're having fun, son.
Right. I hope you're having a good time.
I hope you're having a good time, because this ain't going to get you anywhere. But what will get you somewhere, if we find out if you have any musical attributes. So I found out that I could play the piano, and I had a piano teacher. But what was driving me mad was that I was playing, reading music and playing like Swan Lake and the Blue Danube and stuff. And I'm just
like, classical training, yes.
Classical trainer. But I said, yeah, man, but I'm black. I need some Little Richie. You know what I mean? I need some like Liberace in my life. I need some anarchic piano playing. And like, you can't learn that. That has to come from within. Ray Charles. I need that Stevie Wonder. And it wasn't going to come like that. You needed the classical training. So after about 2 years of driving my mum mad, because I just hated piano lessons. I stopped playing the piano lessons, but I still had a piano at house. So what I used to do is play the music and then play alongside the records and just see if I could copy or emulate my own sound around the music to create my own inevitable sound once I got to play. But I wasn't great at it. I'm still not great at it today. But that has allowed me to create my bass lines, my rhythms, find my chords, sections, and all that sort of stuff. And the drums. I was playing the school drums at home. At the school. So all the rhythms that you hear all comes from the paradiddle. Left, right, left, left, right, left, right, right. And then you go around the kit like this. And then eventually you become this most amazing drummer of all time. But that never happened either. But that's where the rhythm comes from. And that's where my musical attributes come from by those two things, which is, and then the computer age was like, yippee! That's what's helped me to get to where I have done with so many productions and albums and everything else.
Sure, of course. But even pre to that, you're coming up as a kid, same with me. We didn't have MIDI yet. We didn't have the computer stuff yet. It was basically, you had to play the physical parts. Like you said, you didn't know how to play. You didn't have no song, or you need to have a bunch of people around you knew what they were doing, and you had to mime along, I guess. But I could see now for DJing, for you, having the notation, understanding the time signature, and all that stuff can help you with production, which will come not too long after, I'm going to guess. Because you're in school, you're in high school, you're playing the drums, you're doing all this. When does this, transition from band leader, classical pianist to now all of a sudden the band leader, classical pianist to now to start playing officially?
It really happened at school when I was 14, 15. And I had like a small little setup at home where I had my reel-to-reels. I had this small little reel-to-reels that I obtained, and so I can record all my music onto that from the radio. And then I had my separate turntable and separate radio. And then I made a little sound system out of it, put a little EQ on there. I went to college for electrical engineering and also motor mechanics. So I was learning a lot about how to build amplifiers, EQs, and speaker boxes. So that's where my mobile disco came from in the end of the day. And I wanted to pursue that. But also, if I was going to do that, I wanted it to be the best. So I had a couple of friends of mine help me build boxes and amplifiers and EQs. And this is how I got so interested in it. I didn't really want to do anything else. The thing is, the money had to come from somewhere. So I was always in the building trade to, physical labor. Where I was helping people who are into carpentry, called a chippies mate. Where I was into bricklaying, so I was basically Mason. A bricklayer, hod carrying, masonry. And the latest thing out of all of that I basically pursued was scaffolding. So anything that you see that's erected outside of buildings for temporary roofs or for painters or anything else, that was me. Up the side of the building, like Spider-Man, with these holes and everything. Very dangerous. It's dangerous stuff, man. But I good money, and that money went straight back into my sound system. And all of this was when I was like 15, 16 years old. I left school and started pursuing that career. But I didn't have the turntables, and I didn't have the disco setup. So my mum at the time, she used to run a mail order catalogue service, and it's called Freeman's. And in there, you can get bras and all sorts of things, and you can get like Tupperware and all sorts of. And there was a section for electronic equipment, and in there was this mobile disco setup. So you get the lights, you get the turntables, and you get these speakers called FAL, Future Acoustic Limited. Rubbish, nasty, horrible sounding things. But it was
exactly what they were. They look good in the picture, right?
It was just like rubbish. I'm telling you,
properly rubbished, right?
Yeah, but they it was all one thing. Two turntables, little mixer and everything. Stop and start turntables, and they were on spindles with the belt driven. You started with, or if you did a spin back, the ribbon would come off, the belt would come off like, it didn't come off. You could get the table out, put the bloody belt back on, and then put the turntable back on, and then you could play your music again. It was 200 watts. It was 100 watts a side. It had bass and treble, and it had left and right volume control. And it cost £525 at the time.
Jesus, that was a lot of money back then.
For a 16-year or 15-year-old to have.
Yeah, it's a lot of money.
My mum said, if I get you this, you have to pay for it. And that's how it went. So I got it. Can you imagine my glee when the truck turned up with this big unit and these big boxes, and I stuffed it all in one tiny little bedroom, and I turned it on, and there it was. And that was the start of my mobile disco days. I was the go-to person to DJ at any party, school discos, birthday parties, all this sort of stuff.
Give me the picture of the timing. Who else is around you? Was it Norman J with his set yet? Was there anybody else going on? Or were you alone in your own thing, doing it, basically grafting, as we would say? Were you grafting alone, or were you going out to other people and seeing what they were doing? Was there any ideas going on, or you were just basically, I found fire and I'm going to make this fire work? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I was very much on my own with all of this. But my discovery was reading books, listening to tapes from New York as well, following what Studio 54 was up to. I was too young to be anywhere close to anything that was going on. Everything was from afar. My friends who used to go to New York were sending tapes back from WBLS, the mixes back in the day, and which were just amazing, because when you was hearing these wonderful remixes on just made from I think multiple multi-tracks on these reel-to-reels and stuff. Brilliant. Pettibone, Jumping Jenny Bean Benitez, all of these guys were on the radio show, and they were basically making this music. So I was already in when it came to American music, sound of music. But okay. I was always I remember having this book, actually, I wish I could show you. All about Studio 54, and you get the logo outside of it, and you can see all the clothes, and Grace Jones, there, and all sorts of people, and it was awesome. But I always aspired to Studio 54, hoping that maybe one day I'll get to go, and then of course it closed down, and then that was the end of it. But for me, I was living in the UK. I'm in there. I'm living in the suburbs of the UK, a place called Carshalton in Surrey. Some people that are on here may know that place, where I grew up. And this is where when I went to college, a place called Carshalton College, is where I started to learn about electrical engineering. And that's where I started to learn about remanipulating my mobile disco setup, which was fantastic. So when I went out, it sounded the best that anyone else had. So I basically, with the two speakers that I had, so I had a speaker box like this. well, this is the phone, of course, but in the speaker box used to be a speaker there and a speaker here. And these two speakers used to play full range. So there was no treble. It was all mid-range and no bass. So I had to make a crossover unit so I could cross over to these little tiny tweeters called piezos, tweeters, 4 of them at each side. Then another crossover for those speakers to use them as a mid-range. Rather than being like that for full range, they were like that for mid-range. And I usually made these speaker boxes called scoop bins, which was really cheap to make out of MDF plywood. So you put a 12-inch cone in the front of the box, and they had this scoop bin to create the bass underneath it. And then that was what I used to go out with that sound, and it blew everything away. Sometimes in some houses, I just needed one box just to play, because having 2 of them was rattling like the whole road, not just the house. But